NFL Strategy Show. Monday morning quarterback edition, baby. Breaking it all down at what do we see in week 12? What are we doing for week 13? Of course, it is Thanksgiving week, which is exciting. My favorite time of the year to play DFS. I love this slate, and we're going to have plenty of shows coming up for Thanksgiving as well. Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports, the sponsor of the NFL Strategy Show, will also have a bunch of very appealing contests this Thanksgiving. Turkey Day. I hate when people call it Turkey Day, Manny.
Well, what's a turkey day? I don't understand. Just because we eat turkey doesn't mean it's a turkey day.
Right.
Much more to Thanksgiving than the turkey, right?
Right. Are we going to start calling Easter Ham Day? Doesn't make any sense. You know? But the turkey trot, $75,000 K turkey trot, $25,000 in overlay. How about that, dude?
My goodness.
Yeah. Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports making it happen. They got the $20K to first baller, $200,000, $10 to enter. That's on Sunday. And then your NBA contest today on this 11-game slate, $25K baller, $5K to first. If you get in early enough, you'll see some management free contests, and then some no veterans contests that they also have where, you know, if you're a newer player, a novice player, you can get into that without having to worry about playing against anyone else. And you can get your $30 in Yahoo Sports Rewards points, then YSRPs, simply by signing up through us at awesomemode.com. Go to awesomemode.com, click on the NFL tab, and go to the articles. You'll see the showdown link or article for tonight written by EMAC. It's completely free. Read that, but while you do, click on the Yahoo link towards the top. It'll take you there. Use the sign-up code AWESOMO. Get your YSRPs. They're as good as cash to be used to win money on the site, and then deposit it once you play through, of course, because they're not just going to totally give away free money. That would be silly. Bad business model. Get your YSRPs, man. There's Yahoo Sports Rewards points upon depositing up to $30. Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports, where only you can become a baller. Manny, how we doing, brother?
Great, man. Fantastic. Week 12 was, I wouldn't say exactly how I expected. I think I nailed some stuff. So much better week than, I don't know, say the last previous month. But again, so some of the moves I made just didn't pan out, didn't roll my way. But felt pretty decent about how I did in week 12, man. And I don't know. I know there was a lot of chalk that busted. I went to the live final this weekend, so I got to meet some of the guys, talk to some of the top players, what their process has been like, how some of the seasons have been going for them. And you just learn so much at these events and kind of stay grounded. You know, there's a lot of really good players out there that are playing very well. Some struggle, some don't. And it's funny to see kind of where everyone is at halfway through a season or even more than halfway through a season. And yeah, man, in week 12, I think a lot of people were disappointed at some of those top games. We talked about it plenty of times. Those aren't the only games on the slate. And if you were bold enough to get different yesterday, I think it panned out pretty well for you.
Not to, I don't want to get into individual names, but what was the general takeaway? What was the general consensus that you got in terms of how people are doing this season? Are there some really good players that are struggling, some really good players that are doing really well? Why do they think they're struggling? What's happened? And did you take anything good away from talking to some of the top players in the industry?
Yeah, so I spoke to not just top players; it was kind of everyone. Guys who just started, who were at their first live final. Guys that kind of made it by luck, and they were open about it. It was actually funny because I think now, looking back at it, now that you're asking this question, it's a lot of the top guys said it's been really rough, man. It's been a rough season to the point where it's not just NFL, and I know I've been having a rough NFL season, but it's not just NFL. They've started NBA pretty rough as well too, right? And they say it's not so much that they're so negative, but it's dude, they feel the field has gotten much stronger, right? And then I then walk around the room, meet a couple guys, and it's a bunch of first-time live finalists, which is great. I absolutely love it. I got to meet the Czech. Remember, one of our cool guys watches the streams, watches the shows and everything. He had won the Millie Maker, I think, a few weeks back. Remember? Yep. And it's guys like that not just are winning Millie Makers, they're winning 100Ks, they're winning 50K, 20K in one day, and they're fairly new players. And then when I couple it all together, it's like, well, the Sharks are kind of struggling. It's not the easy money it has been for maybe the last 3 years. Now a lot of these newer players and I say they're not even casuals. It's just they're taking it more seriously now. But newer players are getting much better a lot quicker. And it's because of sites like, Awesemo, FC, There's so many different sources now where they can get information and good projections that the field is just getting better at a really, really rapid rate, to a point where it's hurting sharks. And there's newer players now in the ecosystem doing very well. It's very evident when you start talking to a bunch of these guys at the room, and that's kind of what I saw. It's been a rough go for sharks so far.
Okay, interesting. We don't have lineup study right now. Site had some maintenance and they're working on that, but there's still a lot that we can get into and get the general idea of what we've seen. I've had some real good weeks this season, and I've had some bad ones. Yesterday was actually one of my worst weeks, and one of the reasons for that was pretty simple. I liked some of the cheaper running backs that didn't come through, and some of them just didn't have a shot. Philip Lindsay, others direct responsibility of their quarterback, like Miles Sanders. Carson Wentz had an awful game for the second straight week, Manny, and he overshot Miles Sanders on a little screen pass just in the flat that would have gone for an easy touchdown, right in that first quarter.
And it's things like that, man, it's so frustrating. And I know someone told you about that on Twitter, and you're like, come on, man, like he missed an easy pass or whatever. Just like, oh, but he failed. Oh, chalk sucks or whatever. And it's just like, I mean, come on, man,
Right. And look,
if that goes through, they wouldn't be saying that.
And I don't like to play the what if games. Like, hey, what if he got more targets? But like there were two plays that would have gone for big yardage that Wentz. I mean, and when it wasn't like, oh, he just missed him. He missed him by a mile on both of them. And those are the type of plays that you really wish you could get back. Now, the funny thing is, though, when you look at this 5K range of running backs, even if you didn't like him, many of these guys, like Bo Scarborough, had 8.8 fantasy points.
All he had was rushing yards.
Right. Philip Lindsay didn't do much. I don't know. If you want to pretend like you were loving Devin Singletary, fine, but going up against a top run defense in the entire league. James White. Here's another reason that I had a rough week. I really liked James White. I thought in the bad weather game, a team that cannot run the ball with Sony Michel would use James White more. I still stand by it, and I make plenty of mistakes for sure, but the fact that he was that bad, like that bad, is pretty deflating. That it was third quarter and he had one reception for -6 yards. I mean, that's what you got from him. Miles Sanders actually had some of the better output at his price point, which is crazy. He got some of it in garbage time, but I don't know. You look at a lot of these 5K running backs, and there wasn't really anything worth writing home about.
No, there really wasn't. Remember, we talked yesterday about how this 5K running back tier is one that the optimal lineup was going to go to, right? So if you were just making lineups on, Fantasy Cruncher and doing whatever, I mean, you had to kind of just go down there to the Philip Lindsay range, the Miles Sanders range. It was the optimal way of making lineups. But look at the difference. And I spoke about this on my podcast yesterday. There were kind of two ways. If you wanted to get different from this specifically and this type of roster construction, there were two things you could have done, right? Because I think the normal user, again, inputting projections and just making the best possible lineup, got one of Philip Lindsay, I think it was Miles Sanders, maybe even Brian Hill, someone in that 5K range, James White even, and then paid up for wide receiver, which is what we talk about, and ended up getting Julio Jones at the top end, right? So Philip Lindsay, Julio Jones, that was the pairing, right? And that was the pairing that I think you got from everywhere. Basic projections would have given you that. If you went a little bit different, and I think if you were willing to fade, say, even just Philip Lindsay and go elsewhere, whether that's paying up or down, like I paid up a little bit and I went to not just Fournette, I went to Zeke, Saquon, but then I had to pay down from Julio and go from, Julio to Tyler Boyd, which ended up being my highest owned guy yesterday. And all these guys, apart from being, different tiers and price ranges and obviously different projections, you get a different level of ownership altogether, right? Where Tyler Boyd was, in the single digits. You're talking about it could have been Leonard Fournette. Saquon was like 5%. Zeke was 5%. Like these guys were virtually unowned. And obviously they have higher upside than anyone on the slate. So, I mean, if you were willing to make, switches like that, obviously it didn't pan out. But if you were willing to make those moves, I think you could have had a pretty decent day yesterday.
Yeah. A couple of crazy things too. Like Derrick Henry was 30 1% in the Millie Maker.
My goodness.
I mean,
I saw in the live final, Derrick Henry was 45%.
Yeah.
How?
It's pretty crazy, man. Some of some of the ownership on these guys was wild. The tight end position is another one. I was pretty adamant that one of the few things I got right this week was just get away from Vance McDonald. You know, I got a good amount wrong. Like I said, I liked some of these 5K running backs because I didn't think there was a ton of value. And I also liked Julio. A lot of times I'm willing to get away from these popular plays, but it just felt like such a good spot for Julio Jones. And, you know, unfortunately, you're going to get games like this where they find other ways to produce. And that's kind of an interesting thing about bad defenses is, you know, they're going to give up points pretty much everywhere. But really, and I'll get to McDonald in a second, really, when you look at it, dude, Matt Ryan had what, like 9.5 fantasy points or something? I mean, it wasn't like Julio struggled because everyone else was great. Although Russell Gage, you know, was better than him. Calvin Ridley was better than him. Pretty disappointing game from Julio Jones. But at the tight end position, we've said it a lot. You and I said it on Awesemo Radio on SiriusXM Fantasy, which you should all check out. Saturday, 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern, Sunday, 7 to 9. It's a really fun show. Manny and I have been doing it together for a while. Like, Vance McDonald has a floor of 0, like legitimately. And what did he have? One?
He can get you nothing. He got 1 reception for 1 yard.
On one target.
I thought he was going to end up with 0 because I think he got that in the fourth quarter too. And it's one of those where, listen, it's not just as he's touchdown dependent. We've harped on it all week, right? And he's touchdown dependent. He doesn't have really a floor. The offense is terrible to the point where their quarterback got benched. But like you could just see it. Like Mason Rudolph hasn't done anything all season, right? And that's our chalk. I can care less if he's $2,000 instead of $3,000. Like a 0 is a 0. I mean, you could be 1,000. You have a 0 in your lineup, right? Someone in the tournament is going to get 20 points from their tight end. Someone is getting 20 points. The fact that people want to, in tournaments, just punt to at least get 5 or 6 points because they don't want to spend there, to me that's ludicrous. It doesn't make any sense. Someone, whether it's you, whether you want to punt or not, someone is having 20 points there. And Jared Cook owners got there. Zach Ertz owners got there, right? And for those that played Sunday night or whatever, obviously Kittle was massive. So, I mean, someone is going to – and whoever they put instead at their wide receiver position will also have – Jarvis Landry will also have 40, right? Because it doesn't matter if it's Julio. It doesn't matter if it's Michael Thomas. It could be DJ Moore. It could be Jarvis Landry, some mid-tier wide receivers. They have the upside for 40 just by the nature of their position, right? So it doesn't have to only be Julio who can get you there. It could be anyone, and people just make a mistake that they want Julio so bad, so let me sacrifice getting a 0, a 1, or a 2 at this position that's really not worth it when that's totally the wrong idea.
Yeah, and it's crazy, too, because Sizzleville came in 3rd in the Millie Maker, and he had Vance McDonald.
Insane.
Right?
I mean, so even if you want, here's my idea too, even if you want to play Vance really bad and you've checked out everything, that is your play. Just on the sheer nature that he's 25 to 30% owned, pick another 3K guy. It doesn't have to be Vance.
Exactly.
Pick someone, just because of ownership. Just pick someone else. It doesn't make sense.
Gesicki's a perfect example.
Yeah, Gesicki's a perfect example. But stick with 3K, stick with the punt, but just pick a different punt. Don't pick everyone else the same punt.
Exactly. No, exactly right. And that was kind of the point. Like,
right.
If you think that Vance McDonald has a higher floor than Mike Gesicki, he doesn't. You know, they're both 0.
They're both 0.
And
they're both 0.
You know, with how bad Mason Rudolph is, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know the matchup against Cincinnati. Of course, that's the reason why a lot of people were feeling good about it. But I'm not going to act like Mason Rudolph is so much better than Ryan Fitzpatrick. That's just not true.
Right. And I can care less about matchup. At that point is you want to be different than the field, even in the slightest, man. And again, it's almost a coin flip. They're touchdown dependent. Touchdowns are the most volatile thing in the NFL. Just hope that while 25% of the room is on Vance McDonald only for a touchdown because he's not going to get 100 yards. He's not going to get 10 catches. He's not gonna, like, you're not losing anything by dropping down to someone else. Just hope the touchdown goes to Gesicki. And if you made that move, the touchdown did go to Gesicki yesterday.
So NAM 23-12, NAM 23-12 won the Millie with 229-18. He had Baker Mayfield, Derrick Henry, Bo Scarborough, Jarvis Landry, DJ Moore, James Washington, Jared Cook, Nick Chubb, and the Seahawks. I mentioned Sizzleville came in third with Vance McDonald. He had a Sam Darnold, Robbie Anderson stack. He didn't run it back with anybody. The guy that won this, did he run it back with anybody? He did not, Manny. He did not run it back with anyone either. So two guys that didn't run it back. And our boy Jazz Raz, I've been waiting to get to this, Ben Rasa, second place in the Millie Maker. He joined us on Awesemo Radio yesterday. Was an awesome segment, by the way. Probably like a little more than midway through the first hour. Check that out if you have Sirius on demand. Just search Awesemo Radio. You'll enjoy that. He was really happy, and we were happy for him. So he ran it. Baker Mayfield, Jarvis Landry paired them, and ran it. He did run it back, though. He ran it back with Allen Hurns. So he had a semi-game stack, right? Like nothing crazy. No Odell Beckham, no Nick Chubb here, no Devontae Parker. He had Mayfield, Landry, and Hurns from that game. He had Le'Veon Bell and Derrick Henry, monster game from Henry. DJ Moore at 5%, Marshawn Lattimore being out. DJ Moore took advantage, honestly, of what Mike Evans couldn't take advantage of last week. Yep. Allen Robinson at 5%, Zach Ertz at 14%, and then the Cowboys defense at 3%. We were sweating with him live on air. Like, he wasn't with us yet. We waited till the games were over. But Manny and I are sitting here watching it, and we realized that if Tom Brady kicks a field goal here, right? If Tom Brady kicks a field goal with 1 second left or 5 seconds left, instead of throwing it out of the end zone, Ben doesn't drop from second to third. He loses 3 points and drops from second to fourth, which means that $100,000 drops to $25,000. Now he still profited, or he still won $212,000 because he won the spy. He came in second in the dash. He crushed. And by the way, Ben does not MME. He does not max enter. He plays 20 lineups, not in every contest either. He said he does it like a pyramid where the higher dollar ones, he plays 1 and then 2 and then 3. And then once he gets to ones like the Millie Maker, he plays 20. So he had 20 lineups. And he came in second place with Mayfield, Bell, Henry, Landry, Moore, Robinson, Ertz, Hurns, and Cowboys. That's just a well-made lineup. You and I nitpick at things at times, but there's nothing. And I'm not just saying this because it's Ben. There isn't a single aspect of that lineup where I look at it and say, I don't know if I'd have gone there. Yeah, no, looks fantastic. I admire not just obviously the work ethic has been there forever, but the I want to say attention to detail. I mean, it was perfect. Faded Matt Ryan and company in that Atlanta game. I thought that took a lot of stones to begin with. He faded guys like Miles Sanders, faded guys like Phillip Lindsay, faded the bad tight ends on the slate. No Vance, no Goddard, no whoever you wanted down there. I mean, it was perfect. Guys like Allen Robinson, we talked about this on Series 2, guys in that mid-tier for receiver, guys like Allen Robinson, DJ Moore were so under-owned. It's like, dude, at 5%, like, it makes a lot of sense to play these guys because they have the ownership. They have the upside. Obviously, we saw it yesterday. They have the upside and no one's playing them and everyone's going to the same bunch of receivers. It doesn't really make sense over time to continue doing that. I thought Le'Veon Bell was in a fine spot. Obviously, Baker to Landry was a huge thing yesterday. So it was just a perfectly made lineup. Even Allen Hurns, to an extent, was still pretty decent, man. Obviously, caught the touchdown, that's what got him there. But I mean, there's nothing I see wrong. Like, this is if you could make 150 of these type of lineups, man, you are going to be a really, really good NFL player. Yeah, he didn't need 150, man. He didn't need it. And for those that keep saying, this many entries. The guy's just good, man. Mm-hmm. He could do it with 10 entries if you gave him 10 entries. He's been doing it for a long time. And yeah, that's a fantastic lineup. A+ from Jazz Raz, baby. I'll tell you something crazy too. Check this out. Yeah, Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield was the 4th highest scoring quarterback on DraftKings. The 4th? The 4th. Not the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd. He had Derrick Henry. and Le'Veon Bell. Derrick Henry was the third highest scoring running back. Le'Veon Bell was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Sorry, they have the stupid Thursday night game, so probably 8. Was
Right.
the 8th highest scoring running back. All right? He had Jarvis Landry, second highest, and DJ Moore, second and third. And then he had Ertz, who was the highest. And then the Cowboys defense. Now, here's the point I'm getting at. Cowboys defense, you had to scroll to get to. He came in second in the Millie. He didn't have the highest scoring quarterback. Actually, he had the fourth highest. He didn't have the highest scoring running back or the second highest scoring running back. He had the second and third highest scoring wide receivers. And then he had the highest scoring tight end, who was also the most expensive. Why do I say that? Well, because he just put together a lineup in a way that he didn't even need to have Chris Godwin or Leonard Fournette, because everyone produced so well and with such balance that it didn't make a difference. You don't see that very often, where you win $100,000 on a large field tournament where, you don't have like the highest scoring guy at each position, or at least one of them.
Yeah, and you could attribute that a lot to ownership, right? And that's exactly what ownership does for you. When you're different from the field, you don't need to be perfect. You're one of the few with these types of combinations, right? And you have multiple guys sitting at 5%. You have another one at 3%. Your defense was 3%. Like, this is such a unique lineup in so many ways that you're totally right. You don't need to have the first or even the second highest scoring player at any of these positions. You just pair them together. They're low owned. They obviously have upside. They go off, and all of a sudden you're sitting in the top 0.5% of all the tournaments you play, and you're in line for another milli maybe. So there's so many positives to playing this style that when I see, and this is just me starting to come around to it now and starting to embrace a little more. But when you start coming around to, the whole ownership thing and how does it affect you in tournaments? Because I think we're so short-sighted sometimes to where if I lost this week, wow, being contrarian sucks. You know what I mean? I'm never doing this again. You go back to just playing regular chalk, being your normal self. But I mean, it's something that over time is going to win you money. And that's where I think people fail to realize that it's for me, I think, man, this was such a good lineup. We were rooting for him hard. I mean, we kind of needed an unlikely scenario to happen, considering all he had left was the Cowboys. Yeah. He was blocked by Derrick Henry. It was blocked with the Derrick Henry game up top. But, man, it was so close, man. It was so close. It was very, very good showing.
It's kind of crazy, too. I just pulled the perfect lineup up here for DraftKings. We do this a lot, every show to get an idea of, if you had the perfect lineup, the perfect combination, what would it look like? And is there any way that you or I would have landed on something like this? Well, this is what's fun to take a look at. Let's see if we actually would have landed on this, and get an idea of whether or not this makes sense. Because look, every week, sometimes it does make sense. But here's what I found so crazy. We discussed it on last night's radio show. Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, and A.J. Brown were all in the perfect lineup. Again, there's no way I get to that, because I would never have paired Derrick Henry with Tannehill.
Yeah, same.
And you had Tannehill, A.J. Brown, and Derrick Henry, both. But here's the crazy thing. Both running backs from that game, too. Fournette and Henry were both in the optimal lineup. Caden Smith was in it with 12.7, and the Redskins defense. This is one of the more wild ones I've seen, not because it's as many no-name players, but just the fact that Tannehill, Henry, and A.J. Brown were all in the same optimal, all of them with 26 or more fantasy points. That's crazy.
Yeah, every time we talk about something like this or a scenario like this, it's funny because I always say, like, the only way they get there is if the team scores like 60, dude. Like, don't bother. That's impossible. The Titans are not going to score that many points. The Titans yesterday took the over in a football game by themselves. They scored 42. The over-under finished at 41.5 for that game. They scored 42 points. That is how Tannehill, A.J. Brown, and Derrick Henry all got there. So, I mean, if that's what you projected, my goodness, again, go spend your luck on the Powerball. You'll win a lot more millions. And second, it's probably an outlier. I don't think they score this many points that often to the point where that makes a lot of sense. But listen, it doesn't even need to make sense sometimes, right? Obviously, that was the perfect lineup, so very hard for any of us to get there. But all individually, I think pretty decent plays. I think Tannehill and AJ Brown are extremely contrarian. I don't think I would have landed there even with 250 lineups. But Derrick Henry, a phenomenal play. Now pairing him with the quarterback and receiver combination of Tannehill and Brown, I think that's a little too much. But yeah, when a team scores that much alone, yeah, something like that is bound to happen.
Yeah, man. It's a wild one. 277.56 fantasy points, $400 under the cap. Like I said, we don't have Cruncher, but I do want to talk about something. I pulled up the fourth down conversion, $1.25 million.
I'm sorry to cut you off. Now that we were in that same trio, shout out to Tom J.K. Didn't go unnoticed, right? Finished 16th in the Millie. If you look at his lineup, Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown. Brother,
really?
The time machine. Where's the Awesome Tom time machine? Because that's impressive, friend. That is fantastic, dude. By the way, AJ Brown 1% owned. I know you didn't win the Millie, and Jazz Raz is up here, and we're talking about Jazz Raz, but 16th, brother, that's an amazing score. And then doing it in that fashion deserves a big shout out.
Did he have Fournette too?
Yeah. Very, very good lineup, man. Very good lineup. I don't know how I'd land there. Again, we just spoke about it. I don't know how I would land it. By the way, Tannehill, Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, and Adam Humphries running it back with D.D. Westbrook and Fournette. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players from the same game.
Oh, it is 6.
Dude. Wow. And he happened to pick like the best combination of those players.
That is crazy, man. I'd love to know what his exposure was to Tannehill and this game.
Yep, both 1% owned, Tannehill and AJ Brown. Crazy.
Wow, that's crazy, man. That is really crazy. How about that?
Yeah, only because we were talking about that exact trio.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah. And that's why Tom's a better player than I am, because I said
a better player than both of us, dude.
Yeah, that's why I was probably not landing there. But yeah, Tom, for anyone wondering, CEO of Awesemo.com. He and Alex Baker, Awesemo himself, run this place. And you can become part of the family too. You use that sign-up code NFL Strategy, all one word, to get 50% off your first month of Awesemo Plus subscription. Ben Rasa, who we just mentioned, came in second in the Millie Maker. He does a ton of content. He's one of our top guys over at Awesemo as well. NFL Strategy gets you 50% off your first month, access to all of our tools, and the Fantasy Cruncher add-on as well. Definitely something you'd want to check out. Go to awesemo.com/join. Scroll to the bottom. You can see video tutorials on all of our best and most popular tools. And you can sign up through there. Just use the sign-up code NFL Strategy, one word. It'll get you 50% off your first month. So, Manny, like I said, we don't have lineup study, but we can do a little bit here. The fourth down conversion on DraftKings. There's 312 entries, $4,400 or $44.44 to enter. Actually overlaid 300 out of 312 entered. They didn't fill that up. And let's see what we've got here. Okay. Oh, Laz Gets Fit was in it. Be interesting to see where he finished. Now I have to see. He finished 45th. He got paid. Before we go to first place, let's just take a look. He had Ryan Fitzpatrick, Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, Odell Beckham, Devontae Parker, Curtis Samuel, Mike Gesicki, Kareem Hunt, and Patriots defense. So he ran in his single entry in a $4,400 contest a Dolphin stack with Beckham the other way.
And Kareem Hunt, he made a
Kareem Hunt.
Stack.
A full-out stack.
Yeah, so it's funny because the last few weeks we've been talking about how 4-mans and 5-mans have performed, right? And it had been
bad the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's missed quite a bit the last few weeks, and now we saw Tom with a 6-man in here. He forget 4 or 5, he's by 6, and then Laz here with a 5, also cashing this high stakes tournament. So damn interesting, and I think they obviously the Millie Maker and Ben also just going to this Cleveland game. But man, that's crazy. I thought people were kind of done with that after it bit them so much throughout the season.
Yeah, Ben with a mini stack. Tom and Laz with some Mondo stacks. So hard 4, 209.88. He won this by a mile, Manny. He won it by 24 points. Okay.
My goodness.
Just crushed it.
Not even a sweat.
Not even a sweat. Brandon Adams came in second. Pretty popular name. Peter Gibbons 5th. Chipotle Addict 6th. Two Gun 8th. Man, look at some of those names. Papa Gates 12th. TJ or TJ 13th.
The best of the best.
Bales 15th. Under Jones 16th. Two Gun 17th. Peter Gibbons again. Papa Gates again. Brandon Adams. Peter Gibbons again. Under Jones again. Awesome-O 28th. Chess is okay 30th. You heard of those names?
Yeah, I think those are all pretty good players.
Mike Leone, Leon M. Leone M. Wow.
All very good players, man. Yep.
Yeah. Laz gets fit. All right. Rakiti. Wilson. Wilson's a really good player, man. Not an MME guy, but you see him towards the top.
Yeah, he's a very good player. Yeah.
In a lot, right? Now, granted, all the names in this, not all of them, most of them you're going to know, if you know what I mean. Like a lot of these,
right. Like there isn't casuals joining the $4,000 tag.
Right, not that many, exactly. So, like even if you're scrolling down, just so we're like being transparent here, if you scroll down to the guys that didn't cash, you're also going to see a lot of names that we know.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, yeah, you could do that. You're going to see a ton of them that you just have no idea, or that you have know exactly who they are. But anyway, looking at the top scoring lineup. So I wish we could show this with you guys, but bear with us because we'll do our best to spell it out. Baker Mayfield, Le'Veon Bell, Derrick Henry. That's the exact start to Ben's lineup that came in second in the Millie. Chris Godwin, Jarvis Landry. Ben had that. So right now we got 4 or 5. Then Ridley, Gesicki, N'Keal Harry, and the Steelers defense. So basically where his bread was buttered was Mayfield, Henry, Godwin, Landry, and then Ridley was decent. But on ones like this, you don't need to hit everything. Right. Now, he still would have came in pretty high up in the Millie Maker, to be fair. But 26. Henry was 26%. Ridley was 22%. Landry 6. Godwin 13. Mayfield 17%. Le'Veon Bell 16%. Mike Gesicki 10%. Harry was 19%. How about that?
I knew after the whole Sanu thing or whatever that people were going to jump on Harry, but 20%, like. I don't know. That's, in my opinion, that's too much. A very unproven rookie. Yeah, he's talented, whatever, but he hasn't done anything yet. Like, we don't even know what his role could actually be on the team, right? I just know he's talented and had a great college career. That's all we know. Had that touchdown, and I know a lot of people in the live final were going crazy, but outside of that, he didn't do anything else. So I don't know. I think people kind of just jumped on it without really taking the time to digest what they were doing.
Yeah. That's what I saw as well. But Brandon Adams in second place with Winston, Le'Veon Bell, Leonard Fournette. A lot of Bell. How about Bell? You know what's funny? It just goes to show you how roster construction breaks down, even with certain guys that didn't have great games, right? Don't you think you find that interesting that in the Millie Maker, like a lot of the guys up top had Lev Bell. First and second place in this one had Le'Veon Bell. It just goes to show, like, let's see. 6th place, Chipotle Addict had Le'Veon Bell. 7th place had Le'Veon Bell. That's pretty crazy.
A very good play yesterday, man.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. But like I'm saying, he only had 15.8. This was not a smashed game from Le'Veon Bell at all. It just seems like the way everything shook out, you ended with Henry here and like Mayfield and Landry you see in all of these lineups. That's really interesting the way that works.
Yeah, I think the ownership was just appealing on Le'Veon Bell, right? I think you could argue that they could have potentially won that game. He would have been in a good game script, which they did, all of the above. They didn't even allow a touchdown to the Oakland team. They were up,
what happened there, man?
Yeah, they were up huge in this game, and you thought Le'Veon would just get all the carries in the world. He'd get a ton of work. In the red zone, they were at the 1 or whatever, and they ran some ridiculous play action that they threw to Ryan Griffin, for like a 1-yard touchdown. So like he also ran kind of bad to where even the red zone attempts just didn't even go to Le'Veon. When I thought, oh, this is an easy belt touchdown, they didn't even go there. So I think 16, what he finished with, I think the rest of the field kind of got lucky there. There were some pretty easy touchdowns that could have gone Le'Veon's way, and I don't know, they just went to Ryan Griffin instead. So I thought a phenomenal plan. Yeah, you see the trends with the high stakes guys, the pros, quote unquote, right? They all were kind of on the same plays, all kind of on the same builds, roster construction. And it just goes to show you kind of where your head should be at in some of these things, and the process is how they got there, right? I think how they got there is more important of just who did they play? Damn, why didn't I get there? Just how did they land here? So that way next week we can know potentially on who to land again to make these, better plays, if you will.
Right. And a lot of these people will, like for example, Chipotle Addict came in 6th and 64th. Yep. He had he maxed it, so the max entry was I
believe 9.
9. He cashed 2 of 9 lineups, right? So again, trying to be transparent, but a lot of times all you need in one of these is 1, and yep. 6th place, let's see, 6th place $30,000, and then he came in 64th place, which is $8,000. So you got $38,000 there. He $38,000. He actually lost about 2,000 on this contest.
Yeah. So he was actually really close. Not a horrible showing from him, right? Like if you're close to just breaking even in a tournament like this, which obviously is extremely difficult, a ton of pros, and it's really high stakes, I'd consider that a win, right? I'd consider that a win. I'm looking at some of the bottom lineups he had, and it was just a lot of Phillip Lindsay, Miles Sanders, guys that just didn't pan out. Mike Evans, like.
Makes me feel better because I had a lot of those guys too.
Yeah, Alvin Kamara he had James White down here. Remember, he finished with negative receiving yards, you said earlier. I mean, yeah, some just it wasn't even poor decisions. It was just poor performances, and they just happened to be all in the same lineup.
Right. Yeah, and then guys like Saquon Barkley with miserable days, Ezekiel Elliott disappointed again. Yeah, man.
That's where I landed, and it's just like, man, I thought I was in great shape fading the Lindsays and the Sanders and all these guys, James Whites, and all of a sudden Saquon does nothing.
Is there any worse feeling than like getting off the chalk and nailing that and then completely whiffing on your pivots?
Yep, because it was funny. It was like, well, and not only did I fade them, but I then had to pay down at receiver, which is fine. I got away from Julio too, and I had to go to the Boyd, DJ Moore, Jarvis Landry range, and I'm like, dude, I'm going to crush today. There's no way. Saquon, bro, not even 10 points.
I know.
Zeke, no touchdown, no 100-yard bonus, no nothing. It's like, man, dude, I can't catch a break.
I know.
And it's not like they're bad players, right? It's like I'm rostering Saquon and Zeke. Like,
I know. Yeah. Yeah. Peter Gibbons, by the way, how about this, though? He had 5 lineups in this. He cashed 4 of them, all of them in the top 40. So it might not have come in first, but when you see something like that, that is so impressive.
His 5th place lineup, why are you playing Kalen Ballage still, man? Like, play anyone else. I don't care if he's like 5% owned. The guy's garbage, man. He's so bad.
Yeah, and it's funny. I'll tell you, he had a lot of Ballage. You know who else did? Alex. Osimo had, in this, he had 6 lineups, and let's see. 1, 2, 3 of 6 had Kalen Ballage.
Wait. So that little video he made on Twitter from here, Miami, where he was trolling with the best Miami player being Kalen Ballage, he was serious.
I guess so.
He actually played this guy.
It's very possible that I didn't see the video, but. Yeah, he mentioned on the deeper dive that he believed in him from a usage standpoint and no ownership, that he would get some opportunities, but he also had a decent amount of Miles Sanders and Phillip Lindsay. So it comes down to this, like, and this is the build that got me in trouble yesterday. I just made a different one than the people that had the huge weeks, because I kept ending up on a lot of the 5K running backs, right?
Yeah.
The Sanders and the Phillip Lindsays, and that ended up getting me to a lot of Mike Evans, right? I got, still a ton of Ertz and a good amount of Winston too. And Winston was good. Like Winston was really good. But a lot of these I had Winston paired with Evans. And I think I had like 15% Godwin and then 30% Evans. So of course I can never get those guys right.
I feel like it's impossible. And it's just like, how on earth do, like, it's not even that they both can't have a good game at the same time. It's just like, one's almost like a 0, the other one's like a 40. Like it's not even like, all right, one gets 25, the other one gets 18. All right, cool, I'm down with that. But like, one gets 200 yards, the other one gets 50. Like it's night and day. It's not even close, and it's just like it never happens. It never happens at the same time. It's so annoying.
Yeah,
I was pretty wrong on that too.
I hear you, man. Oh, by the way, Daniel Villanueva said it's Ricky D. I had no idea. I always said it was Ricketti.
I've always said Ricky D. What the heck?
I don't know, dude. I have no idea. I don't know the guy. I know he's a good player.
Yeah, no, he's a fantastic player. Really good
he's a
player.
very good player. But I don't know. Rikkidee. Huh. Ricky D, huh? D. Thanks, Daniel.
It's Ricky D, homie.
Look at that. Yeah, I see him.
Very good player.
He had some monster baseball weeks too.
Yeah, he's good at every sport.
Yeah, oh yeah, he's towards the top of essentially everything a lot of the time. Yeah, just looking at a couple comments before we head out of here. Yeah, Barkley struggled since that ankle injury. We discussed it yesterday. There's a lot of just awful games, getting nothing. He's the type of guy that will lose yards, and then he'll explode. That explosion just hasn't been there.
And what is it? I mean, you could keep saying like what injury bug or whatever. Like, I don't know. Eventually it's going to happen, and I'm probably going to get tired of rostering this cat, right? And just like, all right, I'm done. Even though you should never get tired of him, but
man, Kamara too. How about Alvin Kamara?
Oh my goodness, man. So are these guys? I can't tell if they're injured or it's just like variance happening right now in NFL, right? Like not getting into the end zone. Like I feel like he was just, or maybe he was just so dominant in his first season. It's just like, all right, maybe he can't be that good forever. Like, cause he was like an insanely good. Like it was almost like a video game type production for him every single game. It's like how many catches? No one can tackle him. He's faster than everyone. Like, was that sustainable? I don't know, but I can't imagine he just won't score, won't get over 20 fantasy points anymore. Like that's not true either. So I don't know. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I've been worried since he came back that Murray was going to get plenty of work in the run game. Of course, he had the rushing touchdown, right? Of course. And then you would think, okay, that's no big deal. Like Kamara's still going to get his. But and Timothy says Kamara had 19 points. That's not bad. No, that's bad. That's bad because it doesn't do any at 8,200 or whatever he was. That doesn't do anything for you. Like,
right?
Yeah, sure, maybe some like smaller field tournaments or stuff. But when Le'Veon Bell has 16 at his price and it allows you to get another really solid or two player in your line, 19 is just not good in 2019. It doesn't get it done. And thank God he had those garbage time points too. Not garbage time points, but the 2-minute drill points. Because I swear like 7 of them came on the 2-minute drill.
It's true. It's true. He just had and it's funny because as I was watching, it was like, oh, Kamara another catch. Oh, Kamara another catch. Kamara run. Kamara another catch. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, he's gonna get there after not doing anything the entire game.
Right. And Irish Bull makes a good point here. This is why it sucked. He was 26% owned.
Right.
26% owned Kamara with sub 20 fantasy points when Derrick Henry went for 34 or whatever and Fournette went for 36. I forget exactly what it was. But that's the thing. You're getting them at cheaper price points. Fournette had 37, McCaffrey 34, Henry 32, Chubb had 28. So Chubb outpaced him by about 9 at a slightly less price point.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not going to get it done. Ezekiel Elliott's 16 is not going to get it done.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. It was, I thought the plays were fine, just performances wasn't there, man. What could have been, I tell you, what could have been, man.
I know.
Just one of those
Against
things.
Carolina
That's
too,
NFL for you.
There was this talk. We'll close with this. The talk of Julio Jones being a good or bad play at chalk. I am more than willing to fade chalk when it seems like it's appropriate, and to get away from Julio made sense. Like anyone that was said, I'm gonna be underweight on Julio. I totally get it, but I also totally understood having a lot of Julio Jones too. It was just a phenomenal spot where Ridley had the game, Russell Gage had a big game, but and I actually had less of this game overall than probably the field. So most of it didn't burn me. But with Julio, man, that's a really tough pill to swallow because Matt Ryan just struggled and the opportunities were there. If you ran this back 10 more times, Julio would have some monster games and the slate would look entirely different against Tampa Bay.
Of course. Are you kidding me? I mean, Julio goes for 30 fantasy points. Now all of a sudden no one asks, was Julio a good play? Now all of a sudden questions anything. They continue on with their day and someone else probably wins a millionaire maker, right? So it's again, we're hindsighting right now. All we could do is make the best informed decisions, whatever that was. I didn't land on too much Julio, but I do acknowledge it was still a fine play. There were some where I was just like, all right, the ownership was just astronomical to the point that they were almost unplayable for me, i.e. Vance McDonald. That was not the case for Julio yesterday. It was just one of those where my roster construction was a little bit different. I guess other people who decided to fade, I guess their roster construction was a little bit different where they didn't pay down at running back and pay up at receiver. They kind of balanced it out a little more. I think that's where some of the guys at the top went. And if you didn't go there, it wasn't that you were wrong. It's just, again, the performances just didn't go your way.
Yeah, and then another thing that was kind of frustrating too, Calvin Ridley. How much time was left when he scored that touchdown? What was it like?
Yeah, it was one of those garbage touchdowns. So I don't know.
Yeah, man, can't get Evans and Godwin right. TJ says Evans is my kryptonite this year. I hear you, dude. I know
they're impossible to get right. I don't know. I've never gotten them right. It feels like it at least.
Manny, where can everybody find you before we get out?
Yeah, that'll be at @mlaura, like my name, on Twitter. All my work is on Fantasy Cruncher. You guys have it as an add-on, so continue to use it. Sorry about the downtime this morning. I don't know if it's 100% fixed yet, but we are working on to get it 100% fixed. I think it is up for everyone, but in the rare case it is, and we're still working on it. So sorry there. And then my live streams right after this, twitch.tv/mlaura.
Check him out. Follow him on Twitter. Follow me at Laffy_D, LOUGHY_D. We'll see you over there on Twitter while we're not live streaming. Hit that thumbs up if you enjoy the show and you want to help support us. We appreciate all of you guys here tuning in every day. And well, I guess we'll be back, but from Manny, have a good Thanksgiving to everyone, right?
Yeah, for sure. Happy Thanksgiving. I don't think I see you guys till Friday. So yeah, hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving. Thanks to you too, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure. I'm thankful to you, Manny. I'm grateful for Manny Laura.
We've been working a long time together. I thought about that the other day. We've been doing this for years now. Pretty cool.
I know. It's a good time. And I'm glad to have you as someone that's been, the radio show too. It's been a great time.
Yeah, for sure.
Appreciate all you guys as viewers as well. You guys are here each and every day. We'll see you back here next time on the NFL Strategy Show presented by Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports.